The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked driveway into a river of regret. Austin stood there, 16 and soaked to the bone, his backpack slung over one shoulder like a noose, as his father's voice boomed from the open door. "You're no son of mine. Get the hell off this property before I call the cops." Zachary watched from the shadows of the neighbor's porch, heart pounding, fists clenched so tight his nails drew blood, knowing one wrong move and he'd shatter everything they'd whispered in the dark. Austin didn't run. Not at first. He trudged down Elm Street in Willow Creek, Ohio, the kind of Rust Belt town where dreams went to die under the weight of factory layoffs and fundamentalist sermons, his sneakers squelching with every step. The storm clouds hung low, mirroring the ache in his chest, a bruise that pulsed with every heartbeat. He'd known this was coming, ever since the day his dad found the crumpled note in his jeans pocket. "Meet me at the creek after dark." See? It wasn't even a kiss, just words on paper, but in a house where the Bible thumped louder than a heartbeat, it might as well have been a confession scrawled in blood. Willow Creek wasn't forgiving to boys like him. The neighborhood was a grid of sagging ranch houses and chain-link fences, where Friday nights meant high school football under floodlights and Sunday mornings meant fire and brimstone at First Baptist. Austin's family, the Harrisons, were pillars. Dad ran the auto shop, Mom baked pies for church potlucks, and his older sister, Becca, was already engaged to the quarterback. They were the American dream wrapped in red, white, and blue, until Austin cracked it open with his queerness. He made it to the edge of town before the sobs hit, raw and ugly, doubling him over by the railroad tracks. Zachary's face flashed in his mind, those hazel eyes, crinkled at the corners when he laughed. The way his calloused hands from baling hay felt tentative but sure against Austin's skin during their stolen moments in the old barn behind the creek. They'd been each other's secret for a year, fumbling through first kisses and whispered promises under the cover of cornfields. "We'll get out of here," Zachary had said just last week, his voice fierce against Austin's ear. "You and me, Austin. We'll build something real." But now, Austin wiped his face with a muddy sleeve, staring at the flickering neon of the dinette diner across the tracks. He had $40 in his wallet, a half-eaten PB&J, and nowhere to go. Hitching a ride to Cleveland seemed like the only play: bigger city, anonymous streets, a chance to vanish. As the first freight train rumbled past, its whistle a mournful howl, Austin stuck out his thumb. A grizzled trucker in a flannel shirt pulled over, eyeing him like yesterday's trash. "Hop in, kid. You look like trouble." The cab smelled of diesel and despair, and Austin spent the next 6 hours curled against the door, pretending to sleep while the miles blurred Ohio's flatlands into something resembling escape. Cleveland greeted him with gray dawn and the stink of the Cuyahoga River, a city that chewed up runaways and spat out husks. He crashed in a shelter that first night, bunking with junkies and vets who muttered about better days. By week 2, he was slinging burgers at a greasy spoon, dodging leers from the cook and saving every dime for a bus ticket west. California, he'd decided. Hollywood, maybe. Anywhere but here. Back in Willow Creek, Zachary paced the creaky floorboards of his family's double-wide, the one wedged between the Harrisons and the old widow Jenkins. His dad, a burly mill worker with a beer gut and a temper forged in the steel mills, had grounded him for hanging with that fag Harrison boy. Zachary's protests died in his throat. Admitting the truth would torch everything. His mom, soft-spoken and chain-smoking, just patted his hand and said, "Pray on it, baby. The Lord's got a plan." But God's plan felt like a punch to the gut. School the next day was hell. Whispers slithering through the halls like snakes. Becca Harrison shooting him pitying glances in homeroom. The football jocks cornering him by the lockers. Heard your boyfriend skip town, Tommy Hargrove sneered, shoving Zachary against the cold metal. What? You cry yourself to sleep now, Zachary swung wild, connecting with Tommy's jaw, and earned a week's suspension. In the principal's office, his dad arrived reeking of Budweiser, belt in hand, promising a lesson when they got home. That night, Zachary slipped out to the creek, the one place untouched by the town's venom. He sat on the flat rock where Austin had carved their initials AZ. Forever into the bark of the willow tree, the knife marks now weeping sap like tears. The water rushed past, indifferent, and Zachary hurled rocks into it until his arm ached. Come back, he whispered to the dark. Please. Months turned to years, and Willow Creek calcified around the hole Austin left. Zachary graduated, took a job at the mill like his old man, dated a girl named Sarah from the diner to keep the questions at bay. She was sweet, with laugh lines that promised normalcy, but every time her hand brushed his, he thought of Austin's tentative touch, the way it set his skin alight. He drove out to the creek on anniversaries, tracing the faded carving, wondering if Austin was dead in some alley or thriving in a world that didn't hate him. Austin, meanwhile, clawed his way up from the gutters of L.A. The city was a glittering beast, all palm trees and promise, but it devoured the unwary. He couch-surfed with drag queens in West Hollywood, waitressed at a dive bar where tips came with propositions he learned to dodge with a smile and a sidestep. Nights were the worst. Lying awake in shared apartments, the bass from clubs thumping like a second heartbeat, replaying his dad's face twisted in disgust. Faggot, the word echoed, a scar that itched. But Austin had fire in him, the kind forged in rejection. He enrolled in community college on a scholarship for disadvantaged youth, majored in real estate because it seemed like power, who controls the land controls the story. Late nights hunched over textbooks, fueled by black coffee and spite. He aced exams and networked at mixers, charming professors and investors with a Midwestern earnestness that stood out amid the LA sheen. By 22, he had his broker's license. By 25, a small firm flipping fixer-uppers in Echo Park. Success tasted like revenge, sharp and sweet. One humid August evening, Zachary's world cracked open again. He was elbow-deep in engine grease at the auto shop. His dad had retired, leaving the place to him, when Becca Harrison burst through the door, her face pale as milk. Zach, you gotta see this. She shoved a newspaper into his hands. The local rag's headline screaming, Willow Creek developer buys outblock. Harrison home sold in record deal. His stomach dropped. The byline photo showed a man in a crisp suit, jaw set like granite, eyes that haunted Zachary's dreams. Austin. Older, sharper around the edges, but unmistakably him. The article gushed about the prodigal son turned tycoon, how he'd outbid the bank and snapped up half of Elm Street in a single afternoon. A vision for revitalization. It quoted him saying, but Zachary saw the subtext. I'm back to claim what's mine. That night, Zachary drove to the old house. The for sale sign was gone, replaced by a sleek black Mercedes in the drive. Lights flickered in the windows, and through the lace curtains, he glimpsed shadows moving, movers, maybe, or ghosts. He killed the engine, heart slamming against his ribs, and stepped out into the muggy air. The porch light snapped on, bathing him in yellow, and there stood Austin, toolbox in hand, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle. "You," Austin said, voice low and edged with something unreadable. Of all the faces, Zachary's mouth went dry. "Austin. God. You're rich as sin," Austin finished, a bitter smile curling his lips. He set the toolbox down with a thud that echoed like a gavel. "Yeah. Turns out money buys a lot. Even doorsteps." The air between them crackled, thick with unsaid years. Zachary took a step forward, then stopped, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "I looked for you. Wrote letters to every Austin Harrison in California. Nothing." Austin's laugh was hollow, bouncing off the siding. "I changed my name. Legally. Didn't want the baggage." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the posture defensive yet magnetic. "What about you, Zach?" Still playing house with the town. The nickname hit like a spark to dry tinder. Zachary flushed, anger flaring. "What the hell does that mean? I stayed. Fought for scraps while I survived?" Austin shot back, eyes flashing. "You think this was easy? Scraping by? Pretending I wasn't the kid your dad called a pervert behind my back?" Zachary recoiled. "My dad? He didn't." "Bullshit." Austin stepped closer, the scent of his cologne, cedar and citrus, mixing with the rain-damp earth. "I heard him. The night they threw me out. Keep that queer away from my boy. Ring a bell." Silence stretched, taut as a wire. Zachary's mind reeled, fragments of memory slotting into place. His father's warnings, the locked doors, the unspoken ultimatum. Betrayal burned hot in his throat. "I didn't know. Austin. I swear. Save it." Austin turned away, jaw tight. "I'm here to flip this place. Tear it down. Build something new. You want to talk? Fine. But don't expect a hug and a beer." He slammed the door, the sound reverberating through the neighborhood like a gunshot. Zachary stood there, rooted, as porch lights winked on up and down the street. Nosy neighbors, always watching. The rain started again, soft at first, then relentless, washing away the grime but not the ache. He'd lost Austin once to fear. He wouldn't let it happen again. But as he drove home, the mill's smokestacks looming like sentinels, Zachary wondered if some wounds ran too deep for second chances. Little did he know, Austin's return wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was a reckoning for the town, for their families, and for the fragile thread of love that had never really snapped. Austin tossed and turned that first night back in the Harrison house, the creaks of the old floorboards mocking him like accusatory whispers. The master bedroom, once his parents' sanctum, felt cavernous now, stripped of the floral wallpaper and brass bedstead he'd grown up dodging during their fights. He'd hired a crew to gut it all, but sleep demanded solitude, so here he was, staring at water-stained ceilings, the ghost of his father's rage hanging heavy in the air. By dawn, resolve hardened like mortar. He rose, brewed coffee black as his mood, and pored over blueprints spread across the kitchen table. Elm Street would rise from its ashes. Eco-friendly townhomes with community gardens, a co-op market to replace the dying diner, a youth center, ironic, that last one, given how the town had spat him out. It was his empire now, bought with shrewd deals and sleepless nights, a portfolio that spanned from LA lofts to Midwest revamps. But Willow Creek, this was personal. A middle finger to the hypocrisy that had exiled him. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant, Lena, all efficiency, Closing on Jenkins' property today. Crew arriving 9 a.m. Need backup? Austin typed back. Handle it. I'm going in solo. He needed to see the faces, gauge the resistance. Starting with the one that hurt most. The mill parking lot was a sea of rusted F-150s when he pulled up mid-morning, the air thick with the tang of molten steel and sweat. Workers streamed out for break, lunch pails swinging, their eyes narrowing at the outsider in the BMW. Austin leaned against his car, arms crossed, scanning for that familiar shock of blonde curls. There's Zachary, wiping grease from his hands on a rag, laughing at something his buddy said. The sound carried, warm and unguarded, and Austin's chest tightened like a vice. Zachary, he called it out, sharper than intended, and heads turned. Zachary froze, color draining from his face, then straightened, tossing the rag aside. Austin, he approached slow, like circling a wild animal, the other guys drifting back with muttered comments. Close. The years had etched lines around his eyes, worry lines, laugh lines, life lines. He was broader now, shoulders filling out the faded work shirt, but that tentative half-smile, pure memory lane. Got a minute? Austin nodded toward the chain-link fence bordering the lot, away from prying ears. Zachary glanced at his watch, then shrugged. Brakes almost up. Make it quick. They walked in silence, gravel crunching under boots, until they reached the fence where honeysuckle vines tangled like forgotten promises. Beyond it, the creek glittered under the weak November sun. Wait, no, this was August, humid and clinging, but in Austin's mind, it was always that stormy night. I bought the mill too, Austin said, casual as handing over keys. It wasn't true, yet, but the flinch in Zachary's eyes was worth the bluff. You what? Zachary's voice cracked. Bro. That's my life, Austin. My dad's legacy. Legacy? Austin snorted, heat rising. Your dad ran it into the ground with his traditional values bullshit. Overtime for straights only. Remember? I do. Cost me a summer job and a black eye. Zachary's face crumpled, guilt etching deeper. I was a kid. I didn't. You're not a kid now. Austin stepped closer, the fence wire digging into his back. Their breaths mingled, close enough to taste the past. And neither am I. This town's a corpse, Zach. I'm the undertaker. Anger sparked in Zachary's hazel depths. Familiar fire. So you're the savior? Swooping in with your fancy suit and your grudges? What about us? The people still bleeding for this place. Us. Austin's laugh was bitter. There is no us. Not after you let me walk. I didn't let you? Zachary gripped the fence, knuckles white. Your dad dragged you out like trash. Mine locked me in. I wrote to you, Austin. Every goddamn week for a year. Bounced back. All of them. The admission hung there, a lifeline tossed too late. Austin searched his face, seeing the boy he'd loved in stolen glances, the man who'd stayed and suffered. Why'd you stop? Because it hurt too much. Zachary's voice broke, soft as a confession. Every silence was you gone for good. I dated Sarah, tried to fit, but it was you, always you. The air shifted, charged, and Austin felt the pull magnetic, dangerous. He reached out, thumb brushing Zachary's jaw, rough with stubble. Don't say that. Not now. Why not? Zachary leaned in, defiant, their foreheads nearly touching. Scared I'll make you feel something? Austin's resolve cracked. He closed the gap, lips crashing against Zachary's in a kiss that tasted of salt and regret, years pouring out in the press of mouths and hands fisting shirts. It was messy, desperate, the fence rattling as they leaned into it, bodies remembering what minds had buried. A wolf whistle shattered the moment, mill workers hooting from the lot. They sprang apart, flushed and glaring. "Shit," Zachary muttered, raking a hand through his hair. "That was stupid." Austin straightened his collar, heart hammering. "Go back to work. Pretend it didn't happen." But as Zachary walked away, shoulders slumped, Austin knew the lie. The kiss had unlocked something feral, a hunger that Willow Creek's small-mindedness couldn't contain. And with every property closing, every deed signed, he edged closer to the heart of it all. The Harrison house, where it began, and where Zachary's fate now intertwined with his own. That afternoon, Austin met the crew at Widow Jenkins' place, a gingerbread Victorian sagging under ivy and neglect. The old woman, frail as tissue paper, signed over the deed with trembling hands, her eyes misty. "Heard you were Tommy Harrison's boy," she said, patting his arm. "Broke my heart. What happened? But look at you now, making good, guilt-twisted, unbidden." "Just business, ma'am," she cackled, toothless and wise. "Ain't nothin' just business in this town, son. It's all blood and bone." He left with the keys jangling, a weight in his pocket. Driving back, he passed the creek, pulled over on impulse. The willow tree still stood, gnarled and sentinel, the carving faded but legible, AZ. Forever. Austin traced it with his finger, bark flaking under his touch. Forever was a lie they told kids. But maybe, just maybe, it was a promise worth reclaiming. Word spread like wildfire through Willow Creek's veins, the gossip circuit of beauty parlors and barstools. By evening, Austin's phone lit up with calls from realtors sniffing for scraps, pastors decrying gentrification by godless outsiders, and, unexpectedly, Becca Harrison. "We need to talk," her voicemail said, voice tight. "Family meeting. Your place. Tomorrow." He deleted it, but sleep evaded him again. Instead, he sketched late into the night. Not blueprints, but memories. The curve of Zachary's neck in moonlight, the way his laugh rumbled like thunder. Dawn found him resolute. The return wasn't just conquest. It was collision. And in the wreckage, perhaps redemption. Meanwhile, across the street, Zachary lay awake too, Sarah's soft snores a barrier he no longer wanted. The kiss replayed in loops, electric and damning. He slipped from bed, padded to the window overlooking Elm Street. Austin's house glowed faintly, a beacon in the dark. "What have you done to me?" he whispered to the empty room. But deep down, he knew Austin hadn't done a thing. He'd just come home. The next day dawned sticky, thunderheads brewing on the horizon. Austin fortified the house like a bunker, coffee brewing, files stacked, a bottle of bourbon for liquid courage. Becca arrived first, alone, her minivan crunching gravel. She was 30 now, lines of motherhood softening her once sharp features, but her eyes held the same steel. "You look good, US," she said, hugging him stiffly on the porch. "LA agreed with you. Money does that." He led her inside, the living room a chaos of drop cloths and exposed beams. "Where's the firing squad?" She sank onto a sawhorse, sighing. Dad's heart attack last year changed things. Mom's in denial. They sent me as proxy. Austin poured coffee. Black for both. Proxy for what? Absolution. For starting over. Becca's gaze flicked to the window, toward Zachary's trailer. He's struggling, you know. Mill's on the brink. And you? Buying it up? It's like you're punishing us all. The accusation stung, truer than he'd admit. Not punishing. Progressing. Bull. She set her mug down hard. This is about Dad. About that night. He paced. Floorboards groaning. Damn right it is. He called me an abomination. Becca. Shoved me into the rain like garbage. Tears welled in her eyes. Unashamed. I was scared. For you. For me. We all were small town, small minds. But I wrote you letters too. Did you get them? Austin shook his head, throat tight. Changed my name. Remember? Erased it all. She reached for his hand, grip fierce. Then unerase it. We're family. Flawed as hell, but yours. The door banged open before he could respond. His parents, gray-haired and diminished. Dad leaning on a cane. Mom clutching a Tupperware of lasagna like a shield. The air thickened. Recriminations unspoken but electric. Son, Dad rasped. Voice gravel from cigarettes and regret. But Austin held up a hand. Not yet. He glanced out the window, where Zachary's truck idled across the street, engine rumbling like indecision. One more ghost first. As the storm broke, rain lashing the panes, Austin stepped out, coat flapping. Zachary emerged from his truck, soaked in seconds, eyes stormy. Heard the Harrisons are here. This your grand finale? Austin closed the distance, rain mingling with the tears he wouldn't shed. No. It's the intermission. Their hands found each other, fingers lacing in the downpour. A vow, silent and soaked. Inside, the family waited, the town watched, and Willow Creek held its breath. The real drama was just beginning. The storm passed as abruptly as it struck, leaving Elm Street slick and steaming under a reluctant sun. Inside the half-gutted house, the air hummed with tension thick enough to choke on. Austin's parents sat rigid on folding chairs dragged in from the garage. Mom's lasagna sweating condensation onto the drop cloth. Dad's cane tapping an erratic rhythm like Morse code for sorry not sorry. Becca hovered, mediator in sensible flats, while outside, Zachary lingered by his truck, a shadow Austin couldn't quite banish from his periphery. Let's cut the crap, Austin said, slamming the bourbon bottle onto the makeshift table, a plywood sheet balanced on sawhorses. The amber liquid sloshed, mirroring the turmoil in his gut. You didn't come for lasagna or small talk. Spill it. Dad cleared his throat, the sound wet and wheezing. We saw the papers. Whole block, our home, the Jenkins place, even the old mill. You're buying us out. Out. Austin barked a laugh, sharp as shattered glass. You sold it, Dad. To the bank. Then to me. Ink's dry. Mom's hands fluttered, arthritic fingers twisting her wedding band. We didn't know it was you, baby. If we'd, baby, the endearment curdled on his tongue. Last time you called me that, I was 10. Before you decided I was a sin. Dad's face purpled, veins bulging. Don't you blaspheme in this house. This house. Austin swept an arm, encompassing the exposed wiring and dust motes dancing in sunbeams. It's mine now. Paid for with my sweat, Not your sermons. Becca interjected, voice steady. Austin, please. They're old. Scared. The bank's been hounding us since the shop folded. He paced, boots scuffing sawdust, the room closing in like a confessional booth. Memories assaulted him. Sunday dinners with Grace over pot roast, Dad's rare hugs after a touchdown, Mom's lullabies when nightmares clawed. Then the pivot, the discovery of his hidden stash of Details magazines under the mattress, the hushed arguments filtering through thin walls, the final explosion. I was your son, he said quietly, stopping before them. Not a project. Not a demon. Tears carved tracks down Mom's cheeks, mascara blooming like bruises. We were wrong. Church said. Pastor Ellis said it was the devil's work. And you believed him over me? Austin's voice cracked, the boy he'd buried clawing free. I loved you. All of you. And you threw me away. Dad struggled to his feet, cane wobbling, pride warring with frailty. I protected this family. From scandal. From love. The word hung, accusatory. Austin's eyes flicked to the window, where Zachary now leaned against the porch rail, arms crossed, watching like a sentinel. You think scandal's what broke us? Try silence. The room imploded then. Mom sobbing into her hanky, Dad sinking back with a wheeze, Becca murmuring platitudes. But Austin felt no catharsis, just a hollow echo. He stormed out, the screen door banging like punctuation, and found Zachary there, rain-damp flannel clinging to his frame. Eavesdropping, Austin snapped, but there was no heat, only exhaustion. Guarding, Zachary's hand grazed his arm, steadying. You okay? No. Simple. Raw. Austin leaned against the rail, the wood splintery under his palms. They want forgiveness. Like it's a deed I can sign over. Zachary nodded, gaze on the horizon where thunderheads lingered. Maybe it is. Or maybe it's time to let the dead bury their own. The biblical twist drew a reluctant smile from Austin. When did you get wise? Mill shifts. Lots of thinking. Zachary turned. Close now. The space between them humming. That kiss yesterday. It wasn't nothing. Austin's breath hitched. Zach! Shut up. Zachary cupped his face, thumbs brushing stubble, and kissed him slow, deliberate, acclaiming, not a conquest. No fence this time, no audience, just them, porch creaking under shared weight, the world narrowing to the slide of lips and the faint taste of coffee on tongues. When they broke, foreheads pressed, Zachary whispered, Stay. Fight with me, not against. But the moment shattered with tires on gravel Sarah's Civic, pulling up unannounced. She stepped out, sundress fluttering, eyes wide at the tableau. Zach? What so? Awkwardness crashed like a wave. Zachary pulled back, flushing. Sarah, this is Austin. Old friend. She nodded, brittle smile. The developer. Heard. Her gaze darted between them, pieces clicking. We need to talk. Now. Inside, the family meeting morphed into a farce. Lasagna served cold, small talk about grandkids and gout, while outside, Zachary and Sarah's voices rose in clipped argument. Austin watched from the kitchen window, bourbon burning his throat. Betrayal's shadow loomed, not from family, but from the life Zachary had built without him. By dusk, Sarah stormed off, tires squealing, and Zachary reappeared, hollow-eyed. She's done. Knew about us, suspected. Said I'm wasting my potential chasing ghosts. Austin poured him a drink. Glasses clinking. Am I a ghost? No. Zachary downed it in one, coughing. You're the reason I stayed sane. They talked then. Really talked. Hours bleeding into night. Porch light buzzing like a faulty halo. Zachary confessed the letters. The futile searches. The nights he'd driven to Cleveland hoping for a glimpse. Austin shared the grind. The abusive mentor who toughened him up. The one-night stands that left him emptier. The therapy sessions where he reclaimed his name, first and last. No more hiding. As stars pricked the sky, vulnerability bridged the chasm. I bought the mill for real, Austin admitted, fingers tracing Zachary's knuckles. But not to close it. To save it. Modernize. Keep jobs. For you. Zachary's eyes shone. Why? Because you deserved better. We both did. The kiss that followed was fire, hands roaming, shirts untucked, urgency tempered by tenderness. They stumbled inside, past the sleeping ghosts of family who'd decamped to a motel, lasagna untouched, up the stairs to Austin's makeshift bed, air mattress and sleeping bag amid construction chaos. Clothes shed like old skins, bodies rediscovered in the dim glow of a work lamp, scars mapped, size charted, love reclaimed in gasps and grips. Dawn found them tangled, Zachary's head on Austin's chest, heartbeat a lullaby. But Willow Creek didn't sleep, it schemed. By noon, Pastor Ellis's sermon leaked via group texts. Sodom returns to our gates. Repent or resist the outsider's grasp. The backlash ignited. Petitions circulated at the diner. Mill workers grumbled about fancy boy takeovers. Tommy Hargrove, now a deputy, beer belly straining his uniform, cruised Elm Street slow. Eyes narrowed. Austin's crew arrived for demo day at the Jenkins house, only to find tires slashed. Graffiti scrawled, "Go back to Cali, queer." Zachary arrived mid-chaos, face thunderous. "This your welcome wagon?" Austin surveyed the damage, jaw set. They poked the bear. Together, they cleaned, hoses spraying paint. New tires ordered online. In the grit, solidarity bloomed. Zachary's steady hands, Austin's quick wit, laughter punctuating the labor. "Remember the barn?" Zachary said, wiping sweat from his brow. "We fixed that leak with duct tape and dreams." Austin grinned, sudsy water dripping from his hair. Dreams worked then. Might now, but dreams curdled that evening. Becca called, frantic. "Dad's in the hospital." "Stress," they say. "From everything." Austin drove them there, knuckles white on the wheel, Zachary's hand an anchor on his thigh. The ER waiting room smelled of antiseptic and despair, fluorescent buzz a dirge. Mom wept in plastic chairs. Dad hooked to monitors, looking small and spent. "He asked for you," she whispered. "Said he was wrong." Forgiveness teetered on a knife's edge. Austin entered the room, the beeps syncing with his pulse. Dad's eyes fluttered open, milky blue. "Son." One word. Ocean deep. Austin sank into the chair, walls crumbling. "Dad." No speeches, just hands clasped, calloused over fragile. "Proud," Dad murmured. "Of the man." Tears fell, hot and healing. Outside, Zachary waited, a quiet pillar. As they drove home, rain pattering the windshield, Austin realized return wasn't revenge. It was resurrection. Yet shadows lengthened. Tommy Hargrove's cruiser shadowed them home, lights flashing silent warning. The climax brewed, not in boardrooms, but in the heart of the block, where betrayal wore a familiar face. The week blurred into a frenzy of hammers and heartbeats, Willow Creek's pulse quickening under Austin's renovations. Scaffolding rose like skeletons around Elm Street, crews buzzing with drills and optimism, while locals clustered at the edges, some nodding approval at the fresh paint, others muttering curses over picket signs. Save our homes, not his agenda. Austin thrived in the chaos, clipboard in hand, but his true north was Zachary. Mornings shared over takeout burritos on the porch, evenings lost in the creek's embrace, bodies slick with sweat and secrets. Felt like building not just houses, but them. Zachary opened up about the mill's rot, outdated machinery, safety violations buried under bribes, his dad's tough love that left workers broken. "I want to fix it," he confessed one night, head on Austin's lap as fireflies danced outside. "With you." Austin carded fingers through blonde curls. "Resolve stealing. Then we will." Co-op model. Workers' own shares. No more kings. Zachary's smile lit the dark. "You? Going socialist. Pragmatic." Austin kissed his temple, inhaling hay and home. "Love makes you soft, but softness bred vulnerability." Sarah's departure rippled wider, whispers at the diner painted Zachary as the other man. A scarlet thread tying him to Austin's deviant return. Tommy Hargrove fanned the flames, his deputy's badge a shield for old grudges. Once Austin's tormentor in the locker room, now he patrolled with predatory glee, ticketing crews for phantom infractions, advising sellers against the carpetbagger. The betrayal crystallized on a Friday, fog rolling thick off the creek like smoke from a lie. Austin was at the mill, touring with Zachary, blueprints unrolled on a rusty conveyor belt. "Here, solar panels on the roof," he pointed, enthusiasm infectious. "Cut energy costs 30%. Zachary traced the lines. "Eyes alight. And the break room? That lounge you sketched. With a view." Austin slung an arm around his waist, pulling close. Somewhere to breathe. Their kiss was interrupted by a cough. Pastor Ellis, flanked by two deacons, faces stern as Old Testament prophets. Revelations 21:8. The pastor intoned, Bible clutched like a weapon. "The abominable shall have their part in the lake of fire." Zachary stiffened, but Austin laughed. Cold. Quoting scripture in a factory? Bold. What's next? Exorcism on the lathe. The deacons shifted, uncomfortable, but Ellis pressed. "The town knows your influence. Corrupting our youth." "Our?" Zachary stepped forward, voice steady. "Last I checked, Willow Creek's youth are adults. Free to love who they choose." Murmurs from the shadows, workers pausing, eyes averted. Ellis's gaze sharpened on Zachary. "Even sons of godly men? Your father would roll in his grave." Dad wasn't dead, but the jab landed. Zachary paled, and Austin's temper flared. "Get out. This is private property." As they retreated, Ellis's parting shot lingered. "Judgment comes, Harrison." From within, the warning festered. That night, over whiskey on the renovated porch, now with Adirondack chairs and string lights, Austin voiced it. He's rallying them. Petitions, protests. Tommy's in his pocket. Zachary swirled his glass, ice clinking. "Tommy always hated us. That fight in high school, he knew. About the barn, the creek, us." Austin's heart stuttered. He knew, suspected. Zachary set the glass down. Vulnerability raw. Told my dad once. Drunk at a game. Dad beat it out of me. Don't you dare shame us. Rage boiled. Fresh. And you said nothing? What could I? Zachary's eyes glistened. I was 17. Terrified. Austin pulled him close. Arms a fortress. No more terror. Not here. But terror slunk in shadows. Becca called next morning. Voice hushed. Watch your back. Tommy's digging old records. Your emancipation papers. Says he's got leverage for the council vote on your permits. The permits, key to the youth center. The linchpin of Austin's vision. Without them, the whole block stalled. A half-built dream. He met the council that afternoon in the town hall. A brick relic smelling of varnish and votes. Mayor Wilkins, a paunchy relic with a comb-over, presided over gray suits and folded arms. Your plans are ambitious, Mr. Ellis. No. Harrison, the mayor corrected, shuffling papers. But concerns abound. Gentrification. Loss of heritage. Heritage. Austin leaned forward, voice velvet over steel. You mean the trailers leaking lead paint? The mill belching toxins into kids' lungs? Murmurs rippled. Councilwoman Hale, a sharp-eyed teacher, nodded. Valid points. But funding. Local jobs first, Austin countered. 80% hires from Willow Creek. Training programs. The vote teetered 5-4 in favor, but Tommy burst in then, uniform crisp, envelope in hand. Hold up. Evidence of fraud. He slapped photos on the table. Austin and Zachary at the creek. Locked in embrace. Timestamps from a trail cam. Public indecency. On town property. Revoke permits. Gasps echoed. Austin's blood iced. Staged. That's private land. My land now. Prove it. Tommy smirked. Victory sour. Or watch your empire crumble. The room erupted shouts. Gavel bangs. Austin stormed out. Zachary waiting in the hall. Face ashen. He followed us. That night by the willow. Betrayal's blade twisted deep. Not just Tommy's malice, but the town's complicity. Eyes that had seen and stayed silent. We're done, Austin growled, dragging Zachary to the truck. Pack. We're out. But Zachary resisted. Grip iron. No. Running's what they want. We fight. Fight how? Austin's voice broke. They'll bury us. With truth. Zachary's eyes burned. Come out. All of it. Press conference. Show them we're not hiding. The idea terrified. Exhilarated. That evening, they rallied allies. Becca, fierce. Lena, flying in from LA with media contacts. Even Dad, discharged and defiant, wheeling into the living room. Do it, he rasped. Own your name. The presser was set for dawn at the mill gates. Symbolic, unyielding. Night fell heavy. Lovers entwined in the master bedroom, now half-furnished with a real bed. If we lose, Austin murmured against Zachary's skin. At least I had this. We won't. Zachary's promise sealed with a kiss. Bodies arching in defiant rhythm. Slow builds to shattering peaks. Love a bulwark against the storm. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of fire and flood. Morning broke crisp. Reporters clustering like vultures. Locals lining the fence. Curious, hostile, hopeful. Austin stepped to the mic. Zachary's hand in his visible anchor. We're not invaders, he began. voice steady. We're sons of Willow Creek. And we're gay. Proudly. Gasps. Flashes. Tommy lurked at the edge. Face mottled. But then applause. Tentative from a cluster of young workers. Nods from Hale. Dad rolled forward. Mike in lap. My boy. My pride. The tide shifted. Subtle but seismic. Petitions faltered. Council reconvened. Yet climax loomed. Tommy's final gambit. A raid at midnight. Sirens wailing to shatter the fragile peace. Sirens wailed into the witching hour. Red-blue strobes painting Elm Street in frantic hues, shattering the fragile truce Austin's confession had forged. He bolted upright in bed. Zachary's arm still slung possessively across his waist. The sheets tangled like battle flags. What the? Tommy, Zachary growled, already yanking on jeans, face etched with grim certainty. He's forcing the endgame. They raced downstairs, the house groaning in protest. Becca's minivan already idling outside, her text a frantic he's at the mill. Armed, backup. Get there now. Austin grabbed his phone, dialing Lena. Charter a jet if you have to. Witnesses. Lawyers. Then, to the cops swarming the porch, Tommy front and center. Shotgun racked casual on his shoulder. This is trespass. Stand down. Tommy's grin was feral. Beer breath wafting. Warrant for arson investigation. Anonymous tip. Your crew torched the old barn to clear land. Evidence inside. Lies. Austin spat. But dread coiled cold. The barn, their barn. Raised last week for the community garden. Permits filed pristine. But in Tommy's world, truth bent to grudge. Zachary shoved forward, chest to chest. You did this. For what? High school bullshit. Tommy's eyes narrowed, venom pure. For the town. For decency. You too. Parading like it's San Francisco? Corrupting everything pure. Pure. Zachary's laugh was bitter. You mean your daddy's hypocrisy? I saw the tapes. Tommy. You and Ellis's nephew. That camping trip in '09. The deputy's face drained, then flushed crimson. Shut your... Enough. Dad's voice cut through. Wheelchair rolling up the ramp Austin had installed. Mom trailing with a flashlight. Boy, you've shamed yourself enough. Stand down. The standoff stretched. Taut as piano wire. Neighbors in robes clustering. Phones aloft. The press van screeching to a halt. Tommy's deputies shifted uneasy. One muttering. Sarge. Maybe we wait for backup. Then crack. A shot. Wild into the air. Tommy's shotgun bucking. Chaos erupted. Screams. Becca diving for cover. Zachary tackling Austin behind the porch rail. Bullets? No. Blanks? Austin's mind raced. But the intent was murder. Symbolic or not. Drop it. A new voice boomed. FBI? No. Mayor Wilkins. Flanked by state troopers. Badge glinting. Ellis tipped us. Your tip traces to his line. Stand down. Hargrove. Or you're done. Tommy whirled. Weapon trembling. This is my town. Was, Wilkins corrected. Now it's theirs. He nodded to Austin, almost apologetic. Presser worked. Council voted full permits. 2 hours ago. The shotgun clattered to the gravel. Tommy sagging into cuffs. His empire of spite crumbling. As troopers hauled him away, Ellis slunk from the shadows. Bible limp. Repentance a ghost in his eyes. I feared change. Fear's no excuse, Austin said. Rising. dust-streaked but unbroken. Zachary pulled him close, kiss fierce amid the flashing lights. A declaration, witnessed. Dawn gilded the mill as crews returned, undeterred, solar panels gleaming like promises kept. The youth center broke ground that week, rainbow flag snapping beside the American, subtle, defiant. Jobs flowed, the co-op thriving under Zachary's steady hand, Austin's vision the blueprint. Months wove into seasons, autumn leaves carpeting the creek, where they renewed vows under the willow, rings simple gold. Becca's wedding, hers, remarried to a quiet librarian who baked worse than mom, featured a toast from dad to family. All kinds, not all scars faded. Tommy drew 5 years for falsifying reports. Ellis resigned in disgrace, but whispers lingered, eyes averted at the diner. Yet Willow Creek breathed easier, revitalized, townhomes bustling with young families, the market stocked with local pride. One crisp November eve, 2 years on, Austin stood on the renovated porch, Zachary beside him, watching kids chase fireflies in the new garden. The block was theirs, deed signed, hearts mended. Worth it? Zachary asked, hand warm in his. Austin turned, hazel eyes mirroring the stars. Every fight, every scar, their kiss was soft, enduring, a story etched not in stone, but in the quiet revolutions of love. In America's heartland, where rejection once reigned, they'd built a neighborhood of second chances. And in that humanistic arc, from exile to embrace, Willow Creek learned, home wasn't a place. It was forgiveness, fierce and fought for. The end? No. Just the beginning of them, unbroken.